Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we have the brand new Tier 9 Premium Soviet Heavy Cruiser import to review for you guys today. That is the Kozma Minin, or Kozma Minin. Kozma Minin? One of those is probably close enough. But what this is a Donskoy with hipper guns, essentially. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it is, but with a couple of things switched around in addition to the guns being reconfigured. So since she does have guns that are of a 203mm size, this does make this ship a heavy cruiser now, I doth believe. You can argue about that in the comment section all that you want. So on top of that, there's again are a couple of small changes with the consumables and such that do make this ship a little bit more different from the Donkey, the beloved Tier 9 tech line light cruiser. Now, it used to be back in the day you would grind up the Donkey to get to the Moskva, but now again the two lines have split and they flow much better that way, because the Donsky did definitely not play anything like the Moskva does. I mean, two wildly different ships and wildly different playstyles. But anyway, massive shout out, as always, to the channel's Patreon supporters for making this ship review and all ship reviews possible here on the channel. I'm not a CC, so I do not get these new premium ships to try out for free. We have to pick them up with, again, either the funds that the very generous Patreon supporters do supply for the channel, or with the money that the ad revenue from the videos and streams do bring in. If you wish to support the channel, supporting the channel on Patreon is the best place to do so, besides, of course, just watching the normal content that is put out. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Minin. First off, Ouija, shame on you for reusing the Donkey model this much. If you don't know what I mean, behold, the old ship models in the game, the windows are just opaque. You can't see through them. I think there's a slightly different, more reflective texture put on them, because you can see there, obviously the steel texture doesn't look like the glass texture here. But the best example I can show you of what I'm talking about is the Iowa. Behold, Iowa, one of the oldest Tier 9 battleship models in the game. The windows are opaque. They got that 100% illegal tint that would get you pulled over in the state of Texas, and get you a nice ticket. But then if we take a look at the Missouri, which is a newer model, you can see that the windows are see-through. They are transparent with, again, a proper reflective sheen on them. Newer premium ships all have this, because Wargaming, at least back in the day, would go in and touch up the model or redo the model if it's a different ship in the same class. Let's see, I wonder if, real quick, then we'll get back to the Minin, I promise. Let's take a look at the Warspite, and then, like, the Queen Elizabeth. So the Warspite, well, you can't, you can kind of see. Yes, see, her bridge windows are opaque. And then, let me find my Queen Elizabeth. Her windows are non-existent, because it's a different style of bridge. Alright, well, you guys get what I'm saying. They just kind of recycled the Donskys model pretty hardcore there, instead of touching it up, which is big sag. Alright, anyway, back to the Minin, which is right there. Alright, cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at her stats and features, shall we? So this is, of course, a Tier 9 premium ship, so you are going to get the baked-in Tier 9 economy on top of the bonus package that does come with the ship. So you get a 10% buff to your credits, 100% buff to your various XPs, again, on top of the baked-in Tier 9 premium ship economy. So this ship is set up to be a really good credit earner with that. The camouflage, the one that comes with the ship herself, is, well, pretty sad and depressing, gray with some rust on it, unfortunately, so another bit of a letdown there. And let's take a look at her armor now. So you have a 25mm bow, 35mm cheek, you have 25mm stern, 25mm stern deck, pretty sure the bow deck is 25 as well, yep. They 35mm stern cheek, 100mm upper armor, torpedo plating of 27, and side plating of 27 as well. And these citadels should be, well, very much exposed. Again, if you've played the Donkey, it's pretty much the same. So no surprises there for those of us that have grinded through her already. In terms of survivability, you have 43,400 hit points and a 16% torpedo damage reduction. For the guns, you get 4x2 203mm guns, so these are 8-inch guns that reload in 9.5 seconds base. They have a 22.5 second 180 time, a maximum dispersion of 161 meters, and a maximum range of 18.5 kilometers. For the HE, they do a maximum damage of 2,500, and they have a 13% fire chance per shell, which is pretty good, especially with that fire rate. 51mm of HE pen, and they come out the tubes at 925 meters a second. The AP does a maximum damage of 5,900, and they also come out the tubes at 925 meters a second. So let me just pull up my Eugen here, or my Hipper, whichever one, and we will see how that compares to the AP. Is it using that AP, or is it using it is using that AP, so it's the same AP, the same HE. So you get the German HE with the German pins, and you get the German AP. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Because German AP doth hurt when it doth connect. Alright. So that be the guns. Alright. The secondary guns, you get 6x2, the 100mm secondaries, 7-kilometer maximum range. I'm assuming that these are just dual purpose, more so for AA than secondaries. But if you're wondering, it does 1,400 maximum damage with the HE shells, 6% fire chance per shell, 17mm of armor penetration there, and then those come out the tubes at 1,000 meters a second. Alright, torpedoes, 2x5, 533, 6-kilometer torps. Did the Donkey get that back in the day? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure the Donkey only got 4 kilometers. Nope, I'm sorry. Actually, Donkey got better torps. My bad. The Donkey got 8-kilometer torps, so that's a bit of a downgrade as far as range goes. But they do 17,933 maximum damage, 65 knot, 1.3 kilometer detection range. So German torpedoes is what I am seeing here. For comparison, the Donkey did, 14,400 maximum damage. Yeah, these are the standard German 6-kilometer torpedoes. So it's a very German Soviet ship so far. 2 charges of the airstrike. A defense has a rating of 78. You get 40 of the 25mm guns and a quad mount. 6 of the quad-mounted 45mm guns, and then the dual-purpose 100mm guns as well. What's the range on this? 5.8 kilometers. All right. Top speed is 36 knots flat, 970-meter turning circle radius, and a 10.6-second rudder shift time. You have a concealment of 15.5 kilometers base. And for the equipment, you still get radar. It is still the Soviet radar, 12-kilometer, 25-second runtime. By comparison, I think it's the same. I haven't played the Donkey. Yeah, same. 12-kilometer, 25-second runtime. I haven't played the Donkey in quite some time. DFAA, or hydroacoustic search. You get a heal, and then you get an engine boost to boot. That gives you an 8% buff to your top speed for 120 seconds. The heal regenerates 217 HP per second for 28 seconds with an 80-second cooldown time. Alright, so pretty interesting ship so far. I'm getting Donkey side grade vibes from this, but let me go ahead and throw a commander build on and I'll meet you guys right back here. Alrighty, so let's go over the module build first. So I went with a main battery engine build, if you will. Because I figure, you get the 8-inch guns, you get the improved speed with the engine boost. That's probably what you should be building into here with the Kozma. So that's what I went with. So we went with Main Armaments Mod 1. Again, we're a light cruiser. We want to keep our guns in the fight because that's definitely where the bulk of our damage is going to be coming from, since we're not like, the Jinan line with the deep water torpedoes. But anyway, so what this does is gives you a 20% buff to the risk of your main battery becoming incapacitated, a 50% buff to the survivability of your main battery, and a 20% buff to the repair time of your main battery guns. Apply the same for the torpedo tubes as well. Then I went with Engine Room Protection to give us a 20% buff to the chance of the engine becoming incapacitated, and a further 20% buff to the repair time of the engine, and apply that to the steering gears as well. Again, seems like this thing is going to be surviving and dying based upon maybe some throttle jukes, so I figured let's keep the engine alive for as long as possible. Then I went with Aiming Systems Mod 1 because, why not? Makes your shells more accurate, and plus wasn't really sure if anything else here would be a solid choice. Not really an AA boat. Turrets swing around fast enough already. Definitely not a secondary boat. Not a torpedo boat. So again, in my mind, go with the module that makes your dispersion better. Makes your dispersion better by 7%. Also increases your torpedo tube's traverse speed and the range of your secondary guns and improves their dispersion by 5%. I then went with Propulsion Mod 1 to give us a 50% buff to the time it takes for us to get to full speed. So that's pretty cool. Will be a nice zippy little ship. Then Consummate Systems Mod 1, which gives us a 10% buff to our concealment range. The easier it is for you to go dark and scoot away, the better you have, the better chances you have of surviving the engagement. Makes it easier for you to pick and choose your engagement is what I am saying. And then finally, Main Battery Mod 3. This gives us a 12% buff to the main battery reload time. I guess you could take Gunfire Control Systems Mod 2 if you really want the extra range, but it has an 18-kilometer base range already, so that's pretty good for a cruiser by Tier 9 standards. Again, we'll see if it's not working, and I will swap them out if need be. I'm also running Hydro instead of DFAA because submarines are a thing, and I'd rather be able to spot them if I do stumble across them. For the commander, we do have Kozma on here. First single point skill, I went with Last Stand because, being able to still use your engine and steering gears when they do get knocked out, that's a pretty solid choice. We then went with Consumables Enhancements, which gives us a 10% buff to the runtime of our engine boost, our radar, and our hydroacoustic search. So very, very useful skill to have on a cruiser like this that has a bunch of consumables, a bunch of utility like that. Then I would go with Adrenaline Rush. That way you get a bit of a buff to, every bit of HP that you lose. When you lose 1% of your HP, you get a 0.2% buff to your main battery reload time. And on a cruiser, that means more DPM and more damage. And then for the 4-point skill, go with Concealment Expert for another 10% buff to your detectability. Then come back and, just feast on the 3-point skills. I do have heavy AP shells on here, so we get a 5% buff to the amount of damage our shells are doing because we have 203mm guns. So that's literally free damage. Then Superintendent for additional charge of our consumables. And again, when you have a ship like the Minin, which has 4 consumables for you to enjoy, why not get more of them, especially when one is a heal? And then Survivability Expert for an additional 450 HP per tier. So we're getting almost 10,000 more HP because of Survivability Expert here. Now, one thing I would do, I just don't want to pay to respec Kozma right now because this build works so well in so many other Soviet cruisers, but I would give up Gun Feeder and MLG turrets in order to acquire Demolition Expert, so we get another percentage to our fire chance out of the shells. But again, I just don't want to respec Kozma right now, so just imagine we'd be getting a little bit more fires than we will be getting as we play the Minin. So what does that do to the Minin? So we now have 47,450 hit points. The guns now reload in 8.4 second space, again before Adrenaline Rush does kick in. The maximum dispersion is 149 meters now. We have a 15% fire chance because we do have the fire flags equipped. AP is doing a maximum damage now of 6,195. That is, of course, if it pins and citadels the target. Maneuverability with the speed flag is 37.8 knots base before you smack the engine boost. and Consumables all the way down to 12.6 kilometers, so a pretty fairly stealthy cruiser here, although you can't stealth a radar, unfortunately. So guys, that's my build on the Minin. I'll take her into battle, and I'll meet you guys there with a voiceover review of her. Alright guys, voiceover Sealord here, and whew, boy, I have been through it playing this ship for the last couple of hours, let me tell you. So, every single match I had was some variation of what you're seeing right now. Double up tier to a super ship game. Matches were undeniably one-sided one way or the other. So either I had a match that ended in like 6 minutes because we just rolled over the enemy team, or you had something like what you see in the background here. So the Kozma and I have most certainly been through it, and well, it's aight. It's aight. That's the best way I can summarize this ship. So, it is an interesting side grade to the Donskoy, a ship that I had a decent enough time with when I grinded through her back in the day, getting to the Moskva. You see, when it was announced that the Moskva was going to be a premium ship, I put my foot down and I grinded out the rest of the Soviet cruiser line. I got up to, I think, tier 6. So I finished the grind and had a fair amount of alrightness with the Donskoy when I was playing her. And going back to the Kozma, it plays very, very similar to the Donskoy. Essentially what you're doing here is you're trading a bit of HE DPM for more AP DPM, because you get more AP DPM with the 203mm German guns. Hipper guns, I think they're actually the same as the ones that you'll find on the Rune. So Hipper or Rune guns, whatever you want to call them, you get more AP DPM out of them than you do with the normal Donskoy guns. So obviously that means you should be using your AP a lot more than your HE. And when you are, of course, in a tier 9 ship going up against tier 10 and super ship battleships, there's tons of, extremities that AP can bite into, like the bow, the stern, the superstructure, and like the Hanover, the Satsuma. It's just free food for the 203mm guns of the Kozma. And of course, with the good velocities, even someone like the upper belt armors, this ship's AP will definitely get through it. It rewards you with some good damage. So anytime you see a battleship or a super ship, go broadside, definitely have AP loaded up, ready to go to start chewing into their armor. It's great for that. The HE, that 51mm HE pin, there's not really a whole lot that you can't pin with that at tier 9, so that's pretty good, but of course you have the trade-off, that is the low HE alpha. But, it's enough to keep you in the race when you can't get those juicy AP chunks out of the ships that you are currently farming down with the HE. HE is also really solid when it comes to dealing with destroyers. Of course, the good velocity is helping you there. Obviously not the highest punch per salvo, but with the accuracy and the reload of the guns that I had, I wasn't really having too many problems dealing with destroyers when they would pop up. Of course, the 12-kilometer radar is also lovely. It is the old Soviet 12-kilometer radar. It isn't the newer Soviet, like 11-second radar. You get that nice 25-second runtime over 12 kilometers, which is excellent. Obviously, you can bump that up if you take the radar module from the armory. And again, with the skills and the flags that I do have, it gets it out a little bit longer. So that's always nice to have to flush out those enemy DDs. Something that I missed in port, not that I missed it, but I didn't point it out. The armor is slightly thicker than the Donskoy. You get 30mm deck armor with the mid deck versus, I believe, the 27mm of the Donskoy, and the side armor on the Kozma is 27mm, where on the Donskoy it's 25mm. Which that sounds great and all, but like, it still gets overmatched by so much at tier 10, because, you have so many ships that have battleships that have, 457mm guns. They can just go right through 30mm of armor. So it's nice that it's a little bit thicker, but like your bow's still 25. Everything goes through that at tier 10. Your deck is still 30. Again, so many 18-inch, 457mm and above ships that you can run into. So it's a little bit tankier than a Donskoy, but it doesn't really help out too much. So it is worth mentioning, however, in my opinion. But as far as the way it's played, definitely, long to mid range, just like the Donskoy. You're going to have your best time on the off flank, farming down ships as they are pushing into you. The engine boost is quite nice. You can use it to do some throttle jukes, which is great. You have the guns with the velocities to be playing at these longer ranges, and the fact that you can have this engine boost that makes you a little bit zippier when you're playing with your throttle is fantastic. It makes you very, very hard to hit if you know how to throttle juke. I don't think I had a match where we were on the losing side that I didn't have at least 2 million potential damage in the Kozma. I think in the match in the background right now, I think I finished somewhere around 2.5 million potential, because again, it's such a quick ship at long range, especially when you have the engine module like I do, that so many ships are just washing their shots at you, which that is something you should definitely be doing in the Kozma or in the Donskoy. You are the guy that they're trying to shoot, so they're trying to shoot you, but they're not shooting at your team, and they're wasting their shots on you. So all those shells that you've taken away from your team is that much less damage that your team has received. Although in my case, in the match you're watching in the background, my team decided to go to one corner of the map and sit there. So that's cool. The engine boost, if you have the speed flag, you will get up and around, I believe it's 40.8, 40.7 knots. So that's great for if you have to transit from one side of the map to the other side of the map as well. So on top of being a nice little throttle juker, you can kind of get around the map fairly quickly with that engine boost. Hydro, it's Hydro, was very useful when I was playing the ship, obviously dealing with submarines and dealing with destroyer torpedoes. Something nice that you should definitely make use of. I didn't really get to use these 6-kilometer torpedoes, but that's not really saying too much, because like on the Donskoy, you don't really use the 8-kilometer torpedoes that much either way. Usually if you're having to use those, something has gone terribly wrong, but you are again trading range on the torpedoes for more damage. So there is that. So overall, if you do like the Donskoy and you're familiar with the Donskoy or the Soviet light cruiser line, because the Nevsky is basically a big Donskoy, if you like all that, if you like driving players mad at mid to long ranges, but you wanted to get a bit more of that AP flavor in there and have slightly better armor so where you can play a little bit better at mid range, don't get me wrong, like the ship still eats a ton of damage, because yet again, so many battleships at tier 9 plus can go right through your 25mm bow and stern. So if you can bait them to, again, like the rest of the Soviet light cruiser line, hit that midsection where you got your thicker armor, obviously you're going to bounce for days there, and that can and will save you in a lot of situations, as it did me when I was playing the Kozma tonight. So if you like that playstyle, you know how to make it work, you know how to bait those shots to your midsection, you know how to drive everybody mad, and you want it to be a bit more AP focused and have potentially the option to get in there and get a little bit more in that close quarters engagement area, yeah, it's kind of neat for that. Do I think it's better than the Donkey? The Donskoy is a bit easier to play because it's more HE focused, and you do have better HE DPM with the Donskoy over the Kozma. So if you want HE, go with the Donskoy. If you want AP, go with the Kozma. But the big question, of course, is it worth it? How can you get this ship right now? Well, you can get her in one of 3 ways. You can buy her outright in the shop for the price of a normal tier 9 premium, $77, which is obviously a lot of money in real life. So I'm not trying to say, go throw $80 at this digital item. Just know that, it costs that much, but it is the normal price of a tier 9 premium as far as the games, as far as the game scale is concerned. You could also potentially pick her up in the Soviet era containers that are part of the Red October event. You could potentially get her that way, but do know that if you are going for her that way, you also, basically have a 1 out of 6 chance to get her in, one slot. You have a 6% chance of even getting a premium ship in the first place, and you're going up against ships like the Borodino, the Chikhalov, the Bagration, the Ulchakov, and the Navarin, who's finally back in the game. So you could potentially get her that way if you get lucky. Obviously, I would encourage you guys to, if you want to pick her up, just buy her outright, because that's, you know, the easiest way to assure you're getting what you are paying for. You can also buy her outright, and of course an Admiral bundle where you get $137 worth of stuff. You get a 10-point commander, you get a flag for the Kozma, you get a bunch of the Soviet era camouflages, a bunch of signal flags, and all that stuff. So that's what you have to chalk up to. I'm sorry, that's what you have to cough up in order to acquire her. Do I think she is worth full price? Nah, not really. I mean, like, is it neat? Sure, if you like the donkey, if you like the Donskoy, you want to try out more AP focused Donskoy, yeah, it's alright for that. But, like, there's just so many better Tier 9 premium cruisers you can get in this game that are just leagues better than the Kozma. And, again, most of those guys are free. So, I don't think it's really worth dropping what you're doing, drop $80 out and giving that to Wargaming. Again, there's so many better Tier 9 ships. The gear is much better if you want an AP focused cruiser at Tier 9, in my opinion at least. I mean, even like Tier 9 battleships, they have a bunch of good Tier 9 battleships with the Pommern, the Iwami, if you want to go for the main gun build on that. Kearsarge is a better Tier 9 premium ship. I mean, yeah, like, sure, if maybe you have no interest in any other Tier 9 ships and you really, really just want a side grade to the Donskoy, sure, maybe, but it's just kind of, you know, it's aight. It's not really bad in my opinion, but there's just better options out there. So overall, if I had to give the Kozma a numerical rating, I would give it a 7. You have a lot of utility here with the radar, the hydro, and the engine boost. Lots of things you can do with those consumables. It is a nice slippery ship to farm potential damage in. The guns are very nice. The AP guns are very nice. You know, those 8 203mm guns. With Adrenaline Rush, I was having no problem getting those guns down nice and low with the reload. But yeah, the AP is nice. The velocity is very comfortable. You get that nice 51mm HE pin without IFHE. Keep in mind that too. 51mm a pin without IFHE. Again, not a lot can really stand up to that, but again, you do have the lower HE alpha for that. Of course, again, radar, hydro, heal, lots of consumables on the ship, lots of things you can do with that, lots of ways to improve you and your teammates' lives with those consumables. And the torpedoes, more mid-range, close-range torpedoes, but you do get more damage out of them. High top speed of 40 knots with the engine boost. I don't want to say it's fairly stealthy. It's like workable with the 12.5 kilometer detection range. It's not the worst, not the best, but there are some battleships that are stealthier than you. But with the ranges that you're going to be playing at, it's not really a big deal from my experience. Anything else that I'm missing with the Kozma? Slightly better armor than the Donskoy. That is for sure. Slightly better, that's for sure. Downsides being that, of course, you have to trade off that HE DPM to get that AP DPM. The concealment, again, isn't the best in the cruiser world, so that is something that you got to look out for, and you will simply die if you get caught broadside to the enemy team, so be aware of that. So again, you know, it's a heavy cruiser guns on a light cruiser's hull. Yeah, although granted, you know, by Tier 9 standards, unless you're like a super heavy cruiser like the Aegir or the Siegfried, you don't really, you know, you can't really stamp the battleship caliber AP anyway. So guys, that's my review of the Kozma. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. You looking on picking her up, or are you just going to let this one slide on by? Again, I don't think it's anything you need to rush out and buy right now. If she comes back on sale, sure. If you buy some containers, you get her in the containers. You know, you buy like, you know, I don't know, the 5 container bundle, you just buy 1 container, you get her in her. Yeah, it's fine ship in my opinion. It's alright, but nothing you need to go and, you know, waste your money on right now. Hope you guys enjoy. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.